All right, let's jump right in. We usually think of mental health as this battle that happens completely inside our heads, right? But what if the real key wasn't about thinking more, but actually moving more? Today, we're going to dig into that amazing link between our bodies and our minds. And we're going to do it through the really surprising story of an Olympic athlete who, believe it or not, started out as a problem child. So, let me introduce you to Leon Taylor. As a kid, this guy was just a total whirlwind of energy. He was driving his parents absolutely crazy. He wouldn't sleep. It got to the point where his family doctor literally labeled him a problem. And his parents are faced with this choice. Do we sedate him? But they decided to go a different route. Their desperate solution was pretty wild. They decided to fight fire with fire and just try to tire him out.
And that choice, as unconventional as it was, really brings us to the core question here. Think about it. We live in a world that's always telling us to think our way out of our problems, right? To analyze everything, to process it. But what if the most powerful solution to our mental struggles isn't found in our minds at all, but in our bodies, in our muscles, our breath, our movement? So that's what they did. Leon's parents just threw him into every single physical activity they could think of. Swimming, gymnastics, you name it, he was trying it. And then something amazing started to happen. He actually became easier to manage. This constant movement, this kind of medicine for him, it didn't just calm his hyperactivity. It completely by accident put him on the path to becoming an Olympic diver. And he went to 3 games.
Now, here's what's so cool about this. Leon's story, it's not just some cute anecdote about a hyper kid who did well. No, it's actually a huge clue. It points us towards a really simple, really accessible solution to a massive crisis that affects millions. Millions of us every single day.
And yeah, that crisis is what we're all living through. The modern stress epidemic. We're just bombarded, right? Constant notifications, constant pressure, constant anxiety. It's a world designed to keep us trapped inside our own heads.
And the numbers here are, they're just staggering. Let's just take the UK, for example. A survey back in 2016 found that almost 1 in 5 adults, that's 20% of the population, were dealing with symptoms of anxiety or depression. And if you zoom out to the whole world, mental health issues are now the #1 cause of the overall disease burden. This is not a small problem. This is one of the biggest challenges we're facing today.
Yeah. In fact, the World Health Organization is super clear on this. They don't pull any punches. They've officially called stress a global health epidemic. And that's so important because stress is often that first domino to fall, the trigger that can lead to even more serious conditions.
So, here's the really crucial idea to grasp. The problem isn't that we're not smart enough to figure things out. It's actually the opposite. We get stuck in these loops of overthinking, right? Replaying conversations, worrying about what might happen. That's the real enemy. That's psychological stress. We are just spending way too much time in our heads and not nearly enough time in our bodies.
Okay, so if being stuck in our heads is the problem, how exactly does getting into our bodies fix it? Well, the answer is so fascinating, and it all comes down to biochemistry. The moment we decide to move, something absolutely incredible starts happening inside our brains. So the second you start to move, your nervous system kind of goes on alert. It sees it as a moment of stress, like you're about to either fight something or run away from it. And to protect you, your brain just floods your system with this powerful chemical cocktail. Now, these chemicals were designed to help us survive a real physical threat. But in our modern world, they have this amazing side effect. They make us feel great.
Okay, so the first ingredient in this cocktail has a bit of a fancy name. Brain-derived neurotrophic factor. Let's just call it BDNF. The best way to think of it is like Miracle-Gro for your brain. Seriously, it protects and repairs your brain cells, and it even helps you grow brand new ones. It's literally a brain protector, and you get it just by moving. And the second ingredient is one you've probably heard of, endorphins. Yep, the runner's high chemical. Their job, biologically, is to numb pain if you were in a real fight. But for us, that translates into this incredible feeling of ease, of clarity, just a huge mood boost. So you can see that movement does 2 amazing things at once. Right away, in the short term, you get that awesome mood boost and you just feel the stress melt away. But if you stick with it, the long-term effects are even bigger. You literally change the structure of your brain, you boost your self-esteem, and your whole system just becomes less reactive to stress in the first place. And look, the science on this is just rock solid. There's so much proof linking specific kinds of movement to specific benefits. For example, research shows that meditative movements, think yoga or Tai Chi, can be super effective for symptoms of depression. Regular yoga practice has also been shown to help people dealing with PTSD. For anxiety, aerobic exercise is fantastic for building resilience. And for ADHD, even just a quick 20-minute workout can make a huge difference.
Okay, but, and this might be the most important part of this whole thing, there's a catch, a really big one. Not all movement is created equal. And Leon Taylor, our Olympic diver, the guy training 7 hours a day, 6 days a week, he learned this the absolute hardest way.
So after the 2000 Olympics, where he came so close to getting a medal, his world just started to fall apart. He needed 2 major shoulder surgeries. And even though he was training like a machine, obsessing over every little thing, he fell into a deep, dark depression. Think about that. He was exercising more than almost anyone on the planet, and he was completely miserable. He had hit rock bottom.
And this is where we see the critical difference. On one hand, you have exercise, the kind that feels like a chore, where you're just focused on the outcome. But on the other hand, you have joyful movement, which feels more like play. The focus is just on how good it feels, and that creates this positive loop where you actually want to do it again. Leon was exercising for sure, but he'd completely lost the joy.
So when he was at his absolute lowest, his mentor came to him and asked him a really simple question. He said, "Leon, just remind me, why do you do this sport?" And the answer, he said, hit him like a ton of bricks. Out of all those sports his parents made him try as a kid, he picked diving for one simple reason: because it was fun. He enjoyed it. And somewhere along the way, in chasing perfection, he'd forgotten the most important part.
And this idea isn't just for Olympic athletes. Leon tells this amazing story about coaching a high-powered executive whose life was just being wrecked by bipolar disorder. And the one thing they worked on? Getting him to rediscover how much he loved to run as a kid. That's it. 6 months later, the guy is running half marathons, his symptoms had dropped dramatically, and his mental health was the best it had been in 10 years. He didn't change his meds. He just changed his entire mindset about why he was moving.
So, the big question is, how do we actually use this in our own lives? Well, let's break it down into a super simple 2-step plan you can literally start using today. Okay, step 1 for that in-the-moment stress. The key here is just to break the pattern. The second you feel that tension rising, just get up and walk around. And hey, if you can't do that, just change your posture. Sit up straight, take a few slow breaths, anything to interrupt that cycle. Then, step 2 is the long-term plan. Find your movement, not the one you think you should be doing, the one that actually brings you joy.
And this is not some new idea. More than 200 years ago, Thomas Jefferson was writing about how exercise produces cheerfulness of mind. And in our crazy, modern world of constant overthinking and overwhelm, that idea is more important than ever. We have got to get out of our heads and back into our bodies.
So, I want to leave you with a question. And seriously, forget about that gym membership you feel guilty about. Just think back for a second. What did you love to do as a kid? Was it kicking a soccer ball, swimming, dancing in your room, just running around for no reason? What joyful movement are you going to bring back into your life this week?